That's so, we may now begin. On your previous lesson, you learned about incomplete dominance, codominance, and multiple alleles. On this episode, our lesson is about sex chromosomes, sex determination, and DNA. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to explain the chromosomal basis of inheritance and identify the components of a DNA molecule. In our daily lives, we might come to think why human is born as male and female. If we base our answer from the Bible, it's very easy to know why, right? What makes man different from woman? If we're going to ask a biologist, he will answer us that sex chromosome and sex determination are the reason behind this. The inheritance of traits does not strictly follow Mendel's law of independent assortment. But there are many characters that are inherited more frequently. For instance, the expression of certain traits depends on whether an individual is male or female. Apparently, the expression of the traits is determined by or related to one's sex. As far as genetics is concerned, the answer is our chromosomes. Yeah, you heard it right. The answer is chromosomes. But what is chromosome? Chromosome is a thread-like structure of nucleic acids and protein found in the nuclei of most living cells carrying genetic information in the form of genes. Please watch this video clip for more information.
Now let's explore chromosomes. Chromosomes are thread-like structures located inside the nucleus of animal and plant cells. Each chromosome is made of protein and a single molecule of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. Passed from parents to offspring, DNA contains the specific instructions that make each type of living creature unique. The term chromosome comes from the Greek words for color, chroma, and body, soma. Scientists gave this name to chromosomes because they are cell structures, or bodies, that are strongly stained by some colorful dyes used in research. So what do chromosomes actually do? The unique structure of chromosomes keeps DNA tightly wrapped around spool-like proteins called histones. Without such packaging, DNA molecules would be too long to fit inside cells. For an organism to grow and function properly, cells must constantly divide to produce new cells to replace old, worn-out cells. During cell division, it's essential that DNA remains intact and evenly distributed among cells. Chromosomes are a key part of the process that ensures DNA is accurately copied and distributed in the vast majority of cell divisions.
Okay, so that is a chromosome. Is that clear to you, my dear students? Let's dig deeper to this topic as we go along with our lesson. For your information, chromosomes have two types. The first one is the autosomes, and the second one is the sex chromosomes. In a normal person, there are 46 or 23 pairs of chromosomes. The 44 or the 22 pairs are the autosomes, and the 2 or the 1 pair are the sex chromosomes. Human gender depends on sex chromosomes. Male have 2 identical sex chromosomes which are X and Y, while female have 2 identical chromosomes which are X and X. This time, let's study about gamete formation based on the sex chromosomes. But what is a gamete? It is a mature haploid male or female germ cell which is able to unite with another of the opposite sex in sexual reproduction to form a zygote. Meaning, gametes are sex cells. So, this is how gametes are being formed. When a female produces eggs, each egg receives one chromosome. When male produces sperms, all the sperms receive one of each type of chromosomes. Means, half of the sperm cells receives X chromosomes and the other half receives Y chromosomes. Observe this figure for better understanding. This figure shows the distribution of X and Y chromosomes when sperm and egg cells are produced. The sex of an individual is determined at fertilization. It depends upon which type of sperm fertilized egg is XX or the gender of the offspring is female. When an egg is fertilized by a sperm with a Y chromosome, the fertilized egg is XY and it will be developed into male offspring. Now, let's proceed to the three kinds of sex-related inheritance. Okay, there are three kinds of sex-related inheritance. First, we have sex-linked. Second, sex-limited. And the third one is sex-influenced traits. This time, let's talk first about sex-linked traits. Genes located on the X chromosomes are called X-linked genes, while genes located on the Y chromosomes are called Y-linked genes, and the trace is called sex-linked traits. Examples of sex-linked traits are hemophilia or bleeder's disease. Hemophilia is an inherited disease in which a person's blood does not clot easily. Another example is color blindness. It is the inability to discriminate between colors red and green, and it is controlled by the gene located in the X chromosome. Some examples also are congenital night blindness, some high blood pressure genes, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and also Fragile X syndrome. In sex-linked traits, males are usually affected because they only have one X chromosome that carried the mutation. Hypertrichosis spinae oris, a genetic disorder in human that causes hairy ears, is an example of Y-linked traits. A webbed toes is another Y-linked traits. Since the traits are determined in Y chromosome, thus, only males are affected or carrier. Now, let's proceed to the second kind of sex-related inheritance, the sex-limited traits. Sex-limited traits are generally autosomal, which means that the traits are not found in sex chromosomes. Sex-limited traits is manifested only in one gender for physiological and anatomical reasons. Examples of sex-limited traits are bright plumage of certain male birds which does not appear in females of the same species. roosters develop a large comb, while hens of the same breed do not. Milk production or lactation is only manifested in female cows but never in bulls. And birth growth in human are expressed only in male but not in female. I hope that you get what these traits mean. Now, let's move to the third kind of sex-related inheritance. Okay, so the third one is the sex influence traits. Sex influence traits, also known as gender influence, are also autosomal. And what makes these characters unusual is the way they are expressed phenotypically. The difference is only in the ways that two genders express the genes. An example of this gene is baldness in human. Remember, baldness of a person means that he is having no hair or very little hair on his head. And this gene is not on the X chromosome, but its expression of dominance is affected by the sex of the individual involved. It is dominant in male and it is recessive in female. That is why you can see more men who are bald than women. This traits means that one baldness genes is enough to make a man bald. A female must have two baldness genes to make her bald. The reason for this is that chemicals or the testosterone in the male's body have much higher than in female's body, which influence the action of this gene. Is it clear to you? I hope so. Some other examples of this trait are cleft palate and horn size in sheep. We are done studying about sex chromosomes and sex determination. Now, let's move to our last but not the least subtopic, the DNA. When you were in grade 8, you learned that all living things contain genetic material that serves as the set of instructions that gives command of activities and function of the cell. This genetic material is known as deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA, which are passed from one generation to ensure continuity of life. Many questions remain unanswered after the discovery of chromosomes theory of inheritance, despite of so many discussions had made about chromosomes and the traits that gene produced. Some are, what is gene? How do they work? What materials are genes made? If you look closely to your family picture, there are chances that you discover some similarities and differences. This variation is the result of the transfer of similar or different alleles of traits from your parents to you as their offspring. Observe this picture and tell me their similarities and differences. So, what did you observe? Alright, they have the same skin complexion. But you can also observe few differences between them. DNA is the blueprint of heredity. It has the code of instructions for the expressions of inherited characters. The DNA keeps the record of clues about our genetic history. It provides the molecular basis of heredity as life continues from one generation to the next. Scientists now know that the genetic material is DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. Modern research techniques help scientists to answer many questions about DNA. By the end of the 1940s, scientists had found that DNA consists of long strands of nucleotides. Each nucleotide contains a pentose sugar called deoxyribose, a phosphate group, and one of the four compounds called nitrogenous bases. DNA is composed of chain of nucleotides built on a sugar and phosphate backbone and wrap around each other in the form of double helix. The backbone supports four bases: guanine, cytosine, adenine, and thymine. Guanine and cytosine are complementary, always appearing opposite each other on the helix, and are the same with adenine and thymine. This is critical in the reproduction of the genetic material as it allows a strand to divide and copy itself, since it only needs half of the material in the helix to duplicate successfully. The structure of the DNA is actually in a double helix arrangement as shown in this figure. Double helix means that the long two chains of nucleotides are arranged in a spiral-like twisted ladder. A molecule of deoxyribose joins with phosphate and any one of the four bases to form a chemical compound, a nucleotide. A nucleotide is named for the base that joins with the deoxyribose. For example, if thymine attaches to a deoxyribose, the molecule is called a thymine nucleotide. Okay? So I hope that you do understand our short discussion. But before we end this lecture, let's point out the salient points of our lesson. The reason why human is born as male and female is because of sex chromosome and sex determination. And a chromosome is a thread-like structure of nucleic acids and protein found in the nuclei of most living cells, carrying genetic information in the form of genes. And DNA is the blueprint of heredity. It has the code of instruction for the expression of inherited characters.